There we go. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Jenna Wood, and I am one of the dietitians here with the Giant Company. If you're new to our classes, welcome. If you're returning, of course, welcome back. Today, I'm always excited about our recipes, but today is one I have made this recipe so many times, so I'm so excited to share it with you. If you're new to our classes, today's theme topic is our meal solutions class. So we've kind of shifted to our flyer to fork where, we talked about the circular, our ad on Friday, and kind of went through some of the items, but then realistically, what are you going to make with that? What are you going to serve on your table? So that is what we're going to talk about today. Before we get into that, of course, if you missed Friday's class with the circular, or if you're just new to shopping with our circular ad, we're going to touch on some things about where to find that circular, how to find the sales ad, how to use it and bring it to life in a recipe. Today's recipe is going to be our easy taco pasta. Speaking of which, I'm turning down the boiling water. It is at a rolling boil. Alrighty, so how do we find the weekly ad? I'm sure many of you already know, but there are several ways to do this. And I kind of like using two, at least, different ways whenever I'm planning my meals for the week. But the first one, you may receive the weekly ad in your mailbox. So you may receive it, Thursday as the week of sales is about to begin. So look out for that in kind of that packet you might receive with all the different coupons and things you might get. Of course, if you don't receive that physical one and you actually really want a hard copy, you of course can pick up a copy in our stores. Typically, there's like a circular thing right in the front door where you can pick that up or go up to customer service as well. But then, it is 2025. Of course, we want to make sure you're able to view the ad from wherever you are. You can also view it on our website and in our app. And I will say those methods, of course, if you're not as tech savvy, it can be a little challenging at first, but truly, I think this is one of the best ways to view it because you can load digital coupons, which is important for today's recipe. But you can also, click on them, immediately add it to your cart, whether or not you're doing Giant or Martin's Direct, or if you just want to have that growing list of what you're going to purchase, you can use it that way as well. On our website, if you are looking for the circular, there are many ways to do it. The easiest of which you can click on weekly ad kind of right here on the top bar. That will bring you right there. There are many different ways to view the circular. The two main being you can hit print view, which will give you what it would look like if you did receive that circular printed. And then a grid view, which is going to show you more individual pictures and things you can automatically just add to your cart. However, you can also click the images within this version and see, how many you have to purchase, any extra details. If there's a digital coupon, often you can click it there as well. You can also click this PDF print button, and that will download a PDF version to your computer device, whatever you're on, if you prefer to, be able to zoom a little bit easier that way as well. And of course, this was a preview, I believe, when I first took this screenshot. You often can see it starting Thursday, and it'll just say preview because it starts the next day on Friday. And this is for the Camp Hill store. This week's ad runs the 19th to the 25th. Oh, there's my little circle. And then, of course, in your app, if you use a mobile device, you certainly can see it there as well. It will be smaller, so sometimes it's a little hard to see, depending on how small your screen is. But it is, especially when you're in the store, this is such a nice way to view it too. Or if you just are on your mobile device more than maybe you're on a laptop or iPad or something. And you can, of course, see it. It'll come up on the regular main page of your app, but also if you click the save button down at the bottom, it will pull up a similar screen where you can view this week's ad, a preview if you're on Thursday for the next week, and you can do print and grid view here as well. And we like to show you recipes. So we talked about a lot of the items that were in ad on Friday, and we often have a class where you see items that are in the circular. But then how are you going to find recipes that kind of fit some of those on sale items? So today, or last week when I was picking a recipe to make today, I'm like, okay, there's a really good digital coupon for ground beef. There's some salsas. Our cheese is on sale. Like, what can I make with that? In our savory recipe database, you can always search for whatever items you want. I typically filter by that guiding stars too to make sure they're better for you recipes. But I did ground beef and salsa. There were a bunch of recipes that came up. So there are so many different ways to find recipes that you like, and you can put in items you don't like too. So if you're allergic to something or you just don't want something, like maybe you don't want cheese in the recipe, you can always put that in your dislike section. Today's recipe that we are making is an easy taco pasta. And I mean easy. Like this recipe, you do technically need to cook the pasta in a separate pot, but everything else is in one pot. And in theory, if you had leftover pasta, you could do the simply potatoes we've been talking about this month. Like you can really do any starch you want to do, but the pasta it is such a perfect dish. So our recipe today, it does earn one guiding star. I think it really depends on kind of what ingredients you're adding because there's so much variation in these products from the cheese to the salsa to the cheese. But this is one of our take 5 recipes, meaning it is 5 ingredients. Like it cannot be easier. So we're doing a package of rotini or whatever pasta shape you want. If you want a long strand pasta, certainly that could work too. Uh, my favorite pasta is rigatoni. Like I could have done that, but we're gonna stick to the rotini today. A pound of 93% lean ground beef. I did put an asterisk here because I'm actually using our 85/15 that's on sale. If I notice a ton of extra fat dripping off, I may drain it, but we'll kind of play it by ear. Certainly 93 is a really great grind. We're doing 1 packet of the less sodium taco seasoning. If you don't buy made seasonings like that, you certainly can use whatever seasonings you would do for tacos, or even like chili seasonings would be great here. A cup of jarred salsa, or if you make homemade salsa. And then we're going to do some shredded cheese. I'm not going to read through all of the directions. You will receive this. And of course, you can always go to the recipe on our website. But literally, we're going to boil the pasta. Super easy. We're going to cook the ground beef. And then you're going to kind of cook it. If you've ever cooked, ground meat for tacos, we're going to add the taco seasoning with a little bit of water after the beef is mostly cooked. Let that absorb. Then we're going to toss in the rest of the ingredients. Like literally, this is so simple. The pasta, the salsa, and the cheese. The real directions mention like putting it under the broiler. I don't feel like doing that. And I never have in the 10 times I've made this recipe. You can, but you certainly do not need to stick this under the broiler. Again, totally up to you. Now, why did I pick this recipe from the ad that we have this week? Well, like all 5 items are in the ad. So the pasta, this is our Taste of Inspirations line. It's actually fusilli. It's not even rotini. I misspoke, but regardless, it is a similar shape. But I love our Taste of Inspirations pasta. It is actually very good. So this one you can get, I believe there's a deal. You buy our pasta sauce, you'll get this. So you can have pasta sauce for, another recipe later in the week. This is the coupon, so you can clip it or literally clip it in the circular if you want to use that. So I'm using our 85/15, and I'll talk through what I'm going to do because this is often over 3 pounds. Like what else am I going to make this week? And then our shredded cheese is also on sale, which I think, is that the one I have? This is actually the variety I picked, the Mexican style cheese. So we are going to get started. And of course, prices availability are going to vary by your shopping method or, the store location you have. So our recipe highlights, again, this is like one of my favorite savory recipes. I hope you enjoy it. Like, of course, it's not a traditional taco by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just so good. And that's sometimes we just want something good and comforting. But it is perfect for back to school season, back to routine season. Again, like you want something really easy to throw together. You very likely have these ingredients. Like I often keep some frozen ground beef in like pound quantities in my freezer. I often have salsa in the pantry, taco seasoning, a pasta of some shape. And honestly, I keep our cheese in the freezer if I'm not using a huge quantity. So it's a very easy one to throw together, family-friendly ingredients, but also it replicates a flavor that maybe your kids already like. So this is kind of like that stepping stone, like if they're considered, we don't like the word picky anymore, but like a selective eater, it has the word taco. this might be something to kind of get them to try something just a little different. Again, it's versatile, so I'm going to use ground beef, but you certainly could use ground turkey or chicken, ground tofu, or like meatless crumbles. You could add beans. I typically add beans when I make this recipe, or more veggies. I really like our frittata blend that we sell in our produce department. Sometimes it's discounted because it's a fresh item. So like I'll buy those when they're discounted, throw them in the freezer. That adds perfect to this to add some more veggies. And you can make it really spicy or really mild, depending on what you want. Again, it's 5 ingredients. So simple. Uh, okay, so we're gonna kind of come back to this after we make our recipe, but the quantity for the sale, so I'm gonna stop sharing. The quantity for the sale is gonna be that like 3 pounds. So let me turn on my other camera here. Where is it? There we go. Okay, so let us get into this, add a spotlight. Perfect. Okay, so the ground beef container is going to be like that bigger ground beef. So it's like this was like 3.5 pounds. So you only need a pound for this recipe. Certainly you could add more if you have more people in your family. But what I did was I took out a pound, and I have a food scale, which I recommend anybody having, especially if you like to bake. It's really nice for more precise measurements. But I did measure out a pound that I'm going to add to my skillet. So I'm actually going to turn on my skillet here. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Take my lid off, put it somewhere. So I do also have my water already boiling over here. So I'm going to throw in our pasta. Again, I'm using our, oh, it was bright, our fusilli. This is what was in the ad this week. Open that up. I did salt the water just a little bit, nothing crazy, but I did add some. So I'm gonna throw that into our pot. The directions for the pasta say about 9 to 11 minutes. I like my pasta really, really al dente, which we're gonna talk about pasta, I think, next month. So make sure you tune in to that. But I'm gonna do about 8 minutes. We can always cook it longer, but you can't like cook it less if you already overcooked it. So I'm gonna give it a stir. And then we are going to start with our ground beef. So this is going to heat up. This is like my ninja skillet. So I have that on the counter. I'm going to put just a little bit of olive oil right in the bottom there. And then I'm going to throw the ground beef right in. It definitely needs to heat up. But while that is happening, let's see. I will show you some of the other ingredients that I picked. So in our circular this week, we actually had the Cholula salsa, which I've never tried before, but this was in ad, so I figured might as well try it. But I really, really love our Nature's Promise as well. And this is a recipe where it calls for a cup of salsa, but I always find I like a little bit more salsa in it when I make it. So I typically use more than a cup that it calls for. So I like to have an extra on hand just in case. The McCormick is, I think it was McCormick and Old El Paso were in that like dollar section we talked about on Friday in coffee chat. So I do have the reduced sodium or less sodium version, but way back in my cabinet, I found a taco seasoning that I have that expires. There's nothing really that expires, but it is best by the end of December. So I want to use this one up as well. So it's not technically, as low sodium, but that's okay. What else do we have? I mentioned the cheese. So I am doing inside, so I am doing the reduced fat. It does have like 1.5 grams less fat, saturated fat per serving. And a serving is a 1/4 cup, and we're doing a full cup. So I'm going to do this inside. I do also really love, so that's like finely shredded. I do really love our thick shredded cheese. I put like a little bit on top. So I like to have both options. And as I've mentioned, like you'll Google and it won't say that these freeze well, but I always freeze our bagged cheeses, especially when we have a good deal like we do this week. And I never have had an issue defrosting it in the fridge. Like it always is really great. So I like that. All right, pasta's going. So I'm going to use this handy dandy, like beef thing to break it apart, but it's gonna start cooking. It does only call for that pound, but again, like that recipe is for 4 people. If you want more beef, certainly you could add more beef. Let's see. Okay, it is on. One time I turned it on the wrong setting, so I wanted to make sure it is on there. It's gonna start cooking. And then we'll add all of our other ingredients in the meantime. But as I mentioned, I often add beans, especially like these are small red beans. I like these. Pinto beans are great to add to it as well, to add a touch more fiber, because this is not a super high fiber recipe. But I might not do that this time. We will see. Okay, while our beef is cooking and our pasta still has like 5 more minutes, I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen. So as I mentioned, the beef that is on sale is going to be that huge quantity, the family pack. So what are you going to do with the rest of it? So these are just some ground beef recipes that I found in Savory that I thought sounded really good. It's officially fall, so these felt kind of fall-like to me. But this shepherd pie soup, I don't know, this just looks so delicious to me. Then we have, okay, now I hear the beef sizzling. These little mini meatloaves that you can cook in the air fryer with some sweet potato fries and some green beans or whatever vegetable is on sale in the circular. And then this ground beef teriyaki stir fry. Each of these calls for a pound of ground beef. So you can make 3 recipes with this beef. And of course, make sure you tune in. We've got a lot of great classes this week. We have one about immune health. So, flu season's upon us. We have Better Breakfast Day on, I think that's what, Thursday. And of course, October classes are posted because it is almost October, which is crazy. All right, here we go. Now we're sizzling. But what I often will do, so what I'll do with the beef, so again, this can make like into thirds, basically. I'll use my food scale. I'll often wrap the quantities in saran wrap and then maybe foil, but often I'll put it in a freezer safe bag, date it. So date, what day you put it in and what date was like best buy for this. But that's what I'll do after class today because I don't need that much ground beef this week, but it freezes really, really well. And I love having it frozen in those quantities already, as opposed to sticking the rest of that just in there. Because then you can make recipes with ease. And it defrosts, of course, a lot faster too. Right. Still looks super red. It'll come together. Maybe I'll put the lid on. Let's see. We'll give our pasta a stir. This fusilli looks really nice. Okay, let's see. See a question. Is there a class Friday? I don't believe so. I'm away. That I don't believe. I think as we get closer to the end of the month, sometimes we don't have classes on like that last day, but I don't believe so. Always check that calendar we send in the recap. That'll have all the class dates in a really nice, like easy way. Yes, no class tomorrow either. We'll actually all be together. So, we all live so far apart. So it's really nice the days we get to be together. So very excited. Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yes, thank you. Everyone knows our schedule. All righty. We got about another minute for the pasta. I will check it. I don't want it too crunchy, but I do want it to be nicely. Yeah, it's almost October. It's crazy. Crazy. Okay. All righty. Let's give this another. So there is a little bit of fat I see, and actually some of the liquid you'll see here is not fat, it is water coming out of the protein. But this to me is not enough that I'm gonna drain it. So, but totally up to you. If you're really, really are looking to eat lower saturated fat, 85-15 is still a really great grind. This is on high. Perfect. We got our pasta. About 20 seconds on our pasta. I am going to give it a taste. Let's see. Look how cute. Looks so good. Again, any shape really will work here. If you prefer like a macaroni shape, again, I really like rigatoni, but anything should work. It is al dente, like it is. I like it that way though. And again, in our pasta class in October, tune in. We'll talk all about what does al dente really mean, why we recommend cooking pasta al dente, all that good stuff. So I'm going to turn off the water and I'm going to drain that in a moment. But this is my food scale. I really like it. I've had it for like a decade. It still works very well. But if you ever, baking recipes, sometimes it'll call for like the gram weight because that's much more specific when it comes to baking, which baking is a science. So I like using it for that. Or yeah, like I live alone. I don't always need a family pack, but the price per pound is often so good. I will buy it and then freeze what I don't need. All right. So I'm going to take my pasta. I'm going to pour it out right over here. Ooh. The struggles of people who wear glasses. Okay. So I'm just going to pour. My grandmother got me this new like olive oil spray. So I take like our giant olive oil, and this is like the light olive oil. And it just sprays really well, which I like. I don't like to waste or buy a lot of plastic. So I like that. So I just put a little bit of olive oil back into the pot. I don't want to put too much because we're going to put it right into our recipe, but right in there. Yeah, looks so good. I'm just going to do a little bit more so it doesn't stick together. All righty, now we're cooking. Perfect. So there is a little bit of liquid, of course, which the recipe then calls for a half a cup of water that we're going to add in there anyway. So I might just do a little less than that full half cup. I am blurry for some reason. A little less than that half a cup. Come on. And then we're going to add in the taco seasoning. So our taco seasoning's here, still blurry. So again, I'm using that Nature's Promise taco seasoning. Mix that in. I really like this one. Perfect. Again, if you don't taco seasoning, you have chili seasoning, that'll work fine. If you just have, you could do garlic powder, onion powder, chili powder, cumin. You could kind of just do it by your tastes. Okay, mix all that in there. You want it to thicken up a little bit, which most taco seasonings are going to have some type of starch, whether it's a potato starch or a corn starch. Like this one has corn starch. What did ours have? Threw it in my sink. So this one is brown rice flour. So depending on what kind, of starch you want, what that's going to do is help thicken up some of that liquid that's in there. Beautiful. So once we put in the half a cup of water and the packet of the taco seasoning, it said to just cook it for like a minute or two until it thickens up a little bit. Then we're going to add all of the other ingredients. Like it is very simple. It smells so good in here. Actually, let me read what spices it has in here. So this has garlic, paprika, which is my favorite seasoning. I actually saw, I think it was on TikTok, this guy made homemade paprika, which is, I wouldn't say it's easy, like it is just one step. You chop up the peppers, red peppers, put them in the oven to dehydrate them. But it took him like 15 hours on low in the oven. And then he made his own paprika, which is delicious. Cumin, a little sea salt, oregano, onion, a little sugar. Not enough to be like added sugar on the label, but enough. Cayenne, coriander, ancho chili powder, black pepper. Yeah, sounds really good. But again, if you don't normally buy packets, you certainly can do your own seasonings. All righty. So actually, I convinced my dad to make this the other day for dinner at home. He told me he added, it's not super traditional taco either, but often growing up, we would have black olives that we put on our tacos. And he added a can of black olives and he sliced in there. He said it was delicious. So if you love olives, you could add olives too. Alrighty, I am going to turn this down to low. I'm going to add our pasta. Mix that all together. Oh, and this is the thing that is my slow cooker too. Like this thing does a million things. It sautés, it apparently can sous vide, braise, bake, proof, lots of things. So cup of the salsa. Again, to me, a cup's probably not going to be enough, but we will see. Give that a mix. And again, like you could add, this recipe is so versatile. If you want to do a can of like big diced tomatoes, chopped up bell peppers, I would saute them a little to make them soft. So good. Yeah, I am going to add like the rest of the salsa can because there's not much left. Cup of salsa. So this is probably like a cup and a half, cup and a quarter maybe. Okay. Then we are going to add a cup of the, or however much you want. You could do less, you can do more. We're gonna do a cup of the cheese. Give it a mix. It's kind of like we didn't really grow up having hamburger helper or anything, but this is what it reminds me of. Like very, very basic, but so delicious. I love this meal so much. But that is it. It doesn't look like much in the video. Like in person, you see a lot more color. This salsa is a little on the darker side. Sometimes the tomatoes and things pop a little bit more, and of course you can add more cheese. But everything is mixed together very nicely. It smells amazing in here. So I'm going to serve it up. It's very, very hot, so I'm not going to eat it right away. But forgot to take out a bowl. I'm going to you see the cheese in there. It is very hot, so I will be waiting. And I think I'm actually going to turn that off because it is so, so hot. But it's so easy. You can put a little bit more cheese on top. If you like herbs, of course, some cilantro, some parsley would be perfect on this as well. But I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm going to get to your questions. Thank you. Take care.